I spent the last 9 months creating my first horror game without having any prior game development experience. I've always loved playing video games. I played all types of games, shooters, strategy games, RPGs, and many others, but there is one type of game that has always stood out to me: horror games. This genre feels very different from the others to me, because in horror games, the player usually doesn't have a lot of power over the world around them. There is always a monster stronger than the player, a dangerous environment, and a constant sense of tension. This feeling as a player has always fascinated me. On the other hand, in my life, I've always admired entrepreneurs, people who use their creativity and skills to build something of their own. And that's why last summer I decided that it was my turn to bring my own idea to life, my first horror game, which would eventually become SOULMINE. I have a master's degree in civil engineering and another one in computer science, but I never learned anything about game development, so I had to learn a lot of new things during the development of this game. For example, I learned programming at school, but I had to learn C# for this project because I used the game engine Unity. Later, I had to learn other skills like 3D modeling, game design, sound design, marketing, video editing, and many other things. I also discovered a lot of software that I ended up using, such as Unity, Blender, Canva, Audacity, OBS, and DaVinci Resolve. Fortunately, nowadays, pretty much anything can be learned on YouTube and on the internet if you're willing to put in the effort. I'm still learning new things every day, and honestly, that's one of the things I enjoy the most about creating. So when I started the development of the game, I had a general idea of what I was going for. First, I wanted to make a smaller game, a small one, because I didn't want it to take ages to go through the entire process of making my first game. Then, I had two main inspirations for this game. The first one is Monstrum. In this game, the player is trapped on an abandoned ship and must repair an escape route before being caught by a monster. The second game that inspired me is Psycho no Sutoka, where the player is trapped in a high school with a crazy murderous girl and must find the code to unlock the exit before she kills them. Both of these games follow a similar concept: escaping from a dangerous place while hiding from an enemy. With these inspirations in mind, I ended up creating a game based around the same idea. But I didn't want to simply copy these games. During the development, I came up with several ideas to make SOULMINE feel different. First, I chose to set the game in an abandoned mine because I wanted a claustrophobic environment that would put the player under pressure from the very beginning. A mine also felt like a good choice because players can easily get lost when exploring it for the first time. I also wanted the mine to tell a story by itself. Instead of explaining everything through dialogue, I tried to use the environment to suggest what happened there. As the player explores deeper into the mine, they can find abandoned equipment, miner skeletons, damaged tunnels, and other clues that hint at the fate of the miners who once worked there. My goal was to make the player feel like something terrible happened in this place long before they arrived. Then I decided to have two enemies hunting the player at the same time, and I created a system where they work together to kill the player. These two enemies are a ghost and the girl possessed by the ghost. I didn't want the game to be too harsh, so I decided that only the ghost could kill the player, while the possessed girl would try to capture the player to bring them to the ghost. That way, navigating the mine while being hunted by two enemies would be even scarier. However, I decided to give the player a chance of surviving by giving them a flashlight. This flashlight gives the player the ability to see in the dark, of course, but also to blind the possessed girl. However, it doesn't do anything against the ghost, so the player is still the prey. Furthermore, I decided that this flashlight would be manually rechargeable. I've never seen a flashlight like that in any game, so let me know if you've seen something similar in another game. The flashlight can get you out of bad situations, but if you overuse it, it will eventually run out of power, and then your only hope will be to hide. In fact, stealth might be the best weapon the player has to survive in this game. Closets are scattered around the mine, and the player can hide inside them. But don't feel too safe in there. The possessed girl checks them from time to time, and you wouldn't want to be in there when she does. I've always liked to loot in games, so in this one, the player has to search the mine and find the items needed to open the exit and escape. This mine is filled with chests and keys, so maybe you will be able to find the elevator code and escape. if you survive long enough, of course. But to spice things up a little, I added something else that can be looted in this mine. And I'm just gonna tell you that using these things could unlock an additional challenge, and then a different ending to the game. The object spawn is procedurally generated, and so is the exit card. So every game is different. There are also different difficulty levels, so every type of player can play the game the way they want. If I had to talk about the biggest challenges I faced during the development of the game, first it would be programming the enemies. My system became fairly complicated because the enemies are working together and sometimes react to what the other one is doing, so I had to fix a lot of bugs. Then, I would say that the artistic side was also hard at the beginning because I had almost no experience in 3D modeling and in drawing textures, but I'm happy with how the characters turned out in the end. One of the most interesting parts of the development was watching my friends play the game for the first time. As the creator, I already knew where everything was and how the enemies behaved, so it was difficult for me to judge whether the game was actually fun. But seeing players get lost in the mine, panic when they heard footsteps, or desperately try to recharge their flashlight showed me that the system were working as intended. SOULMINE will be available soon, and until then, you can wishlist the game on Steam using the link in the description. If you want to see more about the game, click on the trailer right there.